Hello Y10 and welcome to your next geography lesson on resources. We're focusing in this lesson on the UK specifically. So in the last lessons we've been looking globally. Now we're looking at the UK and we're going to work through today and in the next two lessons the three resources that we've introduced. To remind you, they are food, water and energy. Today we start with UK food. So you will need a pen and paper, that's it. Get those sorted and we'll move on to the next slide. So here's the do now task. Answer these questions from memory. Number one, what is a resource? Number two, what is under nutrition? And number three, look at those two pie charts, some key terms at the bottom there, and some definitions if you need them. Contrast them. Tell me what's different about the two pie charts. List a few ideas. Should take 5 minutes. Get cracking at this now. Pause the video. Okay, so just double check through these. A resource is a supply of something that has a value or purpose, and undernutrition is not eating enough, specifically calories or proteins, to be healthy. Those were introduced over the last two lessons. And this third task, looking at the pie chart, domestic or home use of water does not differ greatly between low and high income countries, but the other two sectors are very different. The two sectors involved with work. Agricultural, the primary sector, remember the use of that word? That dominates in low and middle income countries, whereas in high income countries there is a greater use of water in the industrial or the secondary sector. That makes sense, as we'd expect low income countries to have an economy mostly based on farming and agriculture, and we'd expect middle to have more industrial use, more secondary, and actually more then tertiary as we move into the high income countries. Okay, so to start the lesson today, really, let's have a look and a little think about food and about the food you eat. So spend 5 minutes and list a normal week's shopping at home. Now, being at home, you have the advantage that if there's someone around and you're not sure, because having done this in the past, I know there are some students that for some miraculous reason seem to have absolutely no idea what food is brought into their house. They just eat it and don't think about it. If you're one of those people, then perhaps go and have a little conversation. Maybe even go and have a look through some cupboards, see what you can find. Jot down as many items as you can. Let's get an idea of what your consumption of food is like. 5 minutes at most to do that. Pause now. Okay, so having done that, have a little think about this. What of those products have been imported? What have been brought into this country? They were made, grown, manufactured, whatever, somewhere else. And also, what would you consider high value, meaning expensive essentially? What is the expensive items in there? And really with that, we're talking specifically fruit and vegetables, products that have been grown, that you are buying directly in that state. They haven't been processed or changed into anything else. So what has been imported and what is high value? Just have 30 seconds, a minute, just have a little think about that. Okay, we're going to come back to those ideas in a bit. For now, copy the title. How does food demand and provision in the UK create opportunities and challenges? The words demand and provision we're going to go over in just a second. So like I said earlier, this is the start of the little focus on the UK. We're only talking about the UK today and some things that affect you directly and you are part of, because you have a demand for food and what you want on your plates and in your bellies is exactly what we're talking about today. You might not agree with everything, but generally these are the trends and the patterns across the whole country. So write that title, pause now and we'll move on. So demand for food means how much food and the type of food people want to buy. They demand it. So copy that down. And provision of food means how much food can be grown. Like the supply. We've used that word supply before, kind of means the same thing here. There we go, copy that down. Okay, let's just have a little look at this graph. This is a bar chart and it's showing all different types of food products. And the blue bar shows exports at the top bar of each, and the bottom one shows imports. All measured, the numbers there in billions of pounds. So exports, to remind you, mean things that we sell from this country to other countries. Imports means things we buy in. So I'd like you to just have a quick look through there. What do you notice? What patterns, what trends, what interesting bits of information jump out at you? Spend 5 to 10 minutes doing that. You could even do some calculations. An important part of maths is your ability to analyze data. So is something a quarter of something else, a half of something else? Is something twice the size? Just simple little things like that can help to make an answer a little bit more detailed. So get cracking with that, and I'll show you some answers in just a second. Pause the video now. Okay, so here are some of the main points. Add any that you've missed. There's a huge difference between imports and exports. I hope that really jumped out at you. 50% of all UK food is imported. 9.9 billion more paid to buy it into the country than the amount made by selling it. There's a 9.9 billion difference. Beverages or drinks is the only category we export more than we import. We import more of every other type of food on here. 1.7 billion more is made in revenue, in money, this way. You might have picked on a few, such as sugar, for example. Yes, it's the smallest one on there, but 3 times more imported than exported. Oil, almost 4 times more imported than exported. Don't forget that's oils, food oils, not the black stuff we get out of the ground. And overall, there is what we call a trade deficit on these goods. A trade deficit meaning that you are importing more than you're exporting. Because essentially, what does that mean, really? It means you're losing money. It probably means you're losing money. You are buying in more than you're selling. So as a country, food costs us more money than we make from it. Now, obviously, we make money in other ways, so that doesn't mean that we're, doom and gloom, but it is certainly something that is key for this country. So copy any of those points that you may have missed. Pause now if you need to do that. Otherwise, we'll go straight into the next slide. A subtitle then. So how has demand for food changed in the UK? And we're going to cover 2 things: seasonal food and organic produce. So copy the subtitle. Pause now. Okay, let's start with seasonal food then. It's food that can only be grown at certain times of the year. If you look at the pie chart on the screen there, the diagram, you've got some examples of types of food that can be grown in different seasons. Now, not necessarily all in the UK there, but it gives you an idea of what we mean. Because yes, food does not just grow all year round naturally. Think about the wildlife around you. Think about plants around you. Do you see the same plants all year round? No, you don't. Trees, do they look the same all year round? Well, some of them do, but a lot of them don't. Vegetation, plants change throughout the year. They seed and fruit at certain times and not at others. So if we relied only on food that was grown locally to us just around, we would have to live with seasonal food. There would be big chunks of the year where you would not be able to get and access certain foods that you do now. So copy that down and we'll move on. So why does the UK import so much food? Well, part of it we've just had a look at. If we want seasonal food all year round and we can't grow it in the UK, well, we need to find somewhere else that can supply it. And that's one of the answers here. But there's a few others as well. You've got 5 points there. I'd like you to find the correct statement on the right here. I'd like you to link them up. The UK climate is often unsuitable for, there is a demand for this. No, that doesn't even make any sense. So it's definitely not that one. Which one is it? Get copying out, get linking them up, and I'll go through the answers on the next slide. Pause now. Okay, some answers for you. Here we go. The UK climate is often unsuitable for the production of some foods, such as cocoa, tea, and bananas. Just can't grow them in this country outside naturally. There is often cheaper food available from abroad, which allows supermarkets to try to outcompete each other for low prices. Customers demand greater choice and more exotic foods. Some foods, such as strawberries and apples, are seasonal in the UK, yet there is a demand for this produce all year round. There's that point we covered in the last slides. The UK produced food can also be expensive because of poor harvests and the price of animal feed. So, correct anything you've made a mistake on there, and we'll move on. So organic produce. We've done seasonal foods, now let's look at organic produce. It's food that has been grown with no chemicals, no fertilizers, no pesticides, or certainly no unnatural pesticides or fertilizers. You're allowed to put, horse manure, for example, onto your fields because that's perfectly natural. Although, to be truly organic, you might have to check that horse has been fed organic food as well. Anyway, copy that now. Pause now. So what are the benefits of organic food? I'd like you to watch this video and answer the 3 questions in full sentences. Overall should only take about 5 minutes. I've got answers coming on the next slide. Pause now. Okay, so the family did not want to buy organic food because it's more expensive than non-organic food. The most common answer. If you don't buy organic food in your household, I can almost guarantee you that is why. Number 2, they found pesticides, fungicides, and plant growth regulators, all unnatural chemicals. Some in high quantities would be dangerous in the people at the start of the experiment. Although they did stress, if you remember, that none of them were at dangerous levels. They were all at levels that is considered fine. But nevertheless, this family were very worried, knowing that they had so much unnatural chemical within their body. And number 3, after 2 weeks eating organic food, they found almost all the pesticides had disappeared. Not surprisingly, I guess. So there's a clear link there that these pesticides, these chemicals, are coming from the food they eat. Now, I stress again, there's a lot of health bodies out there that say it's absolutely fine to have those in you. But there's also a lot of people that don't like that idea and disagree with that and wonder whether there are links between these chemicals and other health conditions that they might develop. So you come up with your own mind on that. You make your own mind up. You decide what you believe in. Okay, next, another subtitle to copy. Keep your notes all nice and organized here. What is the impact of importing food? So what? Why do we care? Well, we're going to talk about 2 terms here. They link together: food miles and the carbon footprint. We'll come to those in a second. Copy that subtitle. Pause now. Okay, so food miles are the distance traveled by imported foods. Could you jot down the examples in your book? So copy that subtitle and just jot down those 6 examples. You don't need to draw the map or anything, just as examples of things that we do eat in this country that come from parts of the world that all have food miles. You can see the longest here, the New Zealand lamb, 11,000 miles. Why do we care about that? Well, we'll get to that in just a second. Copy that down, pause now. Okay, why do we care about the food miles? Sorry, well, because of the carbon footprint, and that's the amount of carbon dioxide emitted by any human action, and in this case, specifically by the transport of that food across the world, often by air, often by plane, which is one of the greatest releases of carbon dioxide that we can do as a human. So copy that down, and we'll move on to the next slide. Pause now. Okay, so let's continue this thought about importing food. We've got 3 statements there. Increased food miles. So one impact of importing food is increased food miles. UK farms lose business because we're importing the food in from other countries, and also the UK becomes dependent on other countries. We can't fulfill our own food needs because we are so reliant on importing it in. So we've got 3 points there, 3 impacts. Well, let's see if we can explain those. So complete those sentences at the end using some of those key terms on the right. Some of them you've just come across today, such as carbon footprint. Some of them are standard words you should know about, like conflict. Others you've come across in geography before: greenhouse gas, standard of living, enhanced greenhouse effect, words like that. Food security has also been added on with a definition. That's something that you could use. And if you can think of any more impacts of importing food, absolutely give it a go and email a photo. That's the kind of thing that's going to get you an achievement point. And it'd be lovely to see your work there. So spend 10 minutes getting these sentences completed. Pause now. Okay, so here's a few examples. You may have written something slightly different, obviously, but you get the gist here. Increased food miles, so the amount of carbon produced through the transportation of goods increases the carbon footprint as a result. This contributes to the enhanced greenhouse effect, causing global temperatures to rise, which can also lead to, for example, increased flooding and a decrease in the yield or amount produced of cereals, fruit and vegetables produced by arable farmers, arable meaning crop farmers. This can lead to food insecurity. So you can see quite a thorough explanation there, going from carbon footprint through to the greenhouse effect, or the enhanced greenhouse effect, and then back to food supply again, and how the enhanced greenhouse effect is going to affect food supply. UK farms lose business, so their income will decrease as the amount produced exceeds demand, causing food wastage. In the long term, they will have to close and standard of living will fall. And the UK becomes dependent on other countries, so the price of food will increase as a result. When demand exceeds supply and we are no longer self-sufficient, other countries around the world will raise the price of their produce, knowing we have to import to meet demand. So there we go. 3 fairly serious consequences of our need to import even food. So anything you've missed there, add it on now. Pause here. If you've got all of that, I'm moving on now. So that's it. The end of the lesson. Today you have hopefully learnt how demand for food in the UK has changed, specifically thinking about organic produce and seasonal foods, what the impact of importing that food is, and how the UK is responding to the challenges. So with that in mind, any work you want to send over, please do. Always like to see it. A few people are sending me regularly work, and it is always nice to give them a little bit of feedback and to put some achievement points on the system. Keeps a smile on my face, so that would be great. Otherwise, have a lovely rest of your day. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.